Hello everyone, welcome to our discussion here with Joan Szablewski, our town historian. Joan's been our historian for how many years, Joan?
29.
29 years here at the town of Glenville. We're in the History Center, which is the depository for all of our town records, and Joan has responsibilities we'll get into here in a few minutes about what she does to make sure that they're well taken care of. But this is one of the series in many about our town history during the bicentennial. Because of COVID, we can't do this in person, so we're doing this here on video. And we ask you to check out this YouTube channel as we continue to add videos about our town history coming up. So I want to welcome Joan, or I should say you should welcome me to your History Center. I think you were the historian at the time this was actually opened.
Yes, thanks to Clarence Mosier.
Yeah. What year was that?
Oh, I just saw it yesterday.
I want to say...
Well, it was about 28 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And he just wanted a place. He knew I had all these records at home. And that's another thing. Some of these are the towns because you paid for the paper and everything, and then the others were mine, but I don't know whether you want something written up that everything is yours.
So we have the Szablewski collection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's been how many town historians over the years?
Okay, in Scotia, we had 5, and Glenville we had 4.
4.
And I've got everything written down as far as how many years that everybody went. I just read an article yesterday on this one woman that she was only historian for 5 years and then she died. But she did a real good job with the Scotia Journal and did beautiful work. Somebody said she was the best, and I thought she might have been the best, but she was the second best. Percy Van Epps was the first, and they were all good.
And then after Percy Van Epps, there was...
he hired Don Kiefer for his assistant. And then there was a lapse of a few years after Percy died. Donald got all his records, but every one of them did such a good job, and I can show you what I've got on that.
And then Henrietta, I think, was the third?
She was the third, and it said she was something like 35 years.
Talk a little bit about what's in the History Center. You have all the records for the town, and maybe some of the work you do. What's some of the work the historian does?
Well, what mostly I do is research on families and properties, and like this time since March, I wasn't up here, and I would take everything home that I needed, and I'd do the work at home. And I had quite a bit going this winter. But I know exactly the index that we have starts with the first shelves, second, third, fourth. And I have all my military over here, and I love that military. And I had so much fun with some of the men from World War II. Their wives were either they had passed away or they were in a home. And these men were lonely. They loved to come up here, and they'd bring their books with them. And on the top shelf, I have books that each one gave me for World War I, and that's nice. But I like World War II because I knew so many of the boys. And every day I do obituaries for anybody from Scotia.
Yeah.
And those are the green books. Donald did the third shelf. Those are all obituaries from, no, those third is mine. The fourth he did. And the fifth are all obituaries from years ago, 1600s, 1700s. And those were Donald's. He loaned them to me. And I guess I have to thank Donald for most of the things we have in here. But I've done, 28 years of trying. I take everything out of the newspaper for the town. We've done that for quite a few years. And we've got cemetery records and church records over here. City directories over in this one. In here we have most of the yearbooks for Scotia Glenville. All church records. And they're beautiful. I take them home and work on them. They're all alphabetized. And they've been great. In the other room we have roads and a whole mess of things.
So really, anything that's happened in the town, you pretty much have documented and in some collection here in the History Center. There's a lot that's been in the news lately on Town of Glenville, so you do a lot of newspaper clippings, I would imagine.
Yep, I take all those.
A lot going on in Glenville.
Yeah.
So we're celebrating our bicentennial this year, 200 years.
Right.
A lot of people say, no, that's in 1821, because that's what our logo says. Can you talk a little bit about that and why we're celebrating 1820?
Town meetings. That started, according to that, 1821. And that bothered my daughter, because she said, it wasn't 1820, it's 1821. I said, it's both.
We read through those meeting minutes. So, to clarify for folks, the state legislature passed a law in 1820 that created the town of Glenville, a lot of the city of Schenectady, 4th ward of the city. And in that legislation, they had said that the first meeting would be held on the first Saturday of January 1821. So the logo, our seal, commemorates the first town board meeting, or the first town meeting in Nicky Van Patten's tavern, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So in those minutes, those 1821 minutes, you've transcribed them, I believe, at least.
My daughter did.
Yeah, which was kind of neat. And I thought it was so interesting. The first town supervisor was chosen, Albert Veeder. The assessors, Andrew Yates Jr. was one of the assessors chosen, as you read through the minutes. And then the 3 laws that they kind of created at the end of the meeting there were interesting about the farm animals. So that was all that they were concerned about in Glenville in that time, apparently. The horses, the rams, and the hogs.
But there's just a lot we can do. Of course, we've been handicapped this year.
It's been a difficult year.
Yeah.
And even today we're here distant from each other, trying to stay as distant as possible as we bring these videos to you. And just trying to review the town's history and explain to folks what our past was like and why we're celebrating 200 years. So we talked a little bit about the Van Patten, Nicholas Van Patten Tavern. In the legislation itself, it states that the first meeting has to take place at Nicholas Van Patten's tavern. Unfortunately, there were 2 taverns, both owned by Nicholas Van Patten, 2 separate Nicholas Van Pattens, they're cousins, I believe.
One was, the upper was Nicholas Philip, and the bottom, lower one was Nicholas Simon.
And they're both on Sacandaga.
Right.
Within a mile or 2 of each other.
What I want to do now is, there's a lot of things that are missing. And I want to do the property where Stewart's is.
Yep.
See if I can find a picture of the house. And I know that Nicholas Simon's family lived there. And in one of the papers in the folder that I gave you, I didn't take it back. It told the year that he sold the property. And I think maybe that way I can find a little bit more. So many of the records, they don't have S or P.
Yeah.
It's just Nicholas, and there are a lot of Nicholases.
Yeah. So there was confusion early on. I think it was Van Epps who said that the meeting took
in
place
his
at
book.
Upper.
Yeah.
But Donald Kiefer said lower.
And neither one of them, to my knowledge, ever made mistakes.
No. Well, I could see where the confusion comes in, but
Oh yeah.
but I think that what we talked about a week or so ago was the legislation. The Act of 1820 writes in that it would be at the home of Nicholas S. Van Patten.
Right.
The minutes say that they called the order at the house of Nicholas S. Van Patten, so it's pretty sure that it was at Lower Nicky's.
Right.
But interestingly, as it's transcribed here, the town meeting adjourned to the house of Nicholas P. Van Patten.
Right.
So for some reason they went from Nicholas S. Van Patten's house to Nicholas P. Van Patten's house after the meeting, maybe to have drinks or something. We had quite a few taverns, I think, in the town, especially along Sacandaga, which was a major travel route between the North Country where timber would come and things like that. So these taverns were kind of there for folks who were traveling. And of course, where Lower Nicky's is where Stewart's is now, and we're
Right.
doing our ice cream with them. I don't know if you had a chance to get that ice cream, Joan.
No, I
That's
don't
great.
remember.
You got to get that ice cream. It's called the Glenville Bicentennial Blast. It's at Stewart's. They're helping us celebrate our bicentennial. We talked a little bit about the history of the town, 1820, and you mentioned you were in the runner's house, which was the Upper Nicky Van Patten Tavern. You also spent a lot of time in the Yates Mansion, didn't you?
Oh yeah, as a kid,
Yeah.
young girl.
Any stories on that are interesting?
Good or bad? My parents were very strict with me. But my friends, they could get away with it. So I spent a lot of time in Scotia. My parents never said anything about me staying overnight. But my one friend could stay out late. That I liked. We had a good time when we stayed overnight at Pat Donatio's. I mean, she had everything. Horses, and she drove her father's Cadillac at 17 and took us with her. So we had a good time. But we stayed almost every weekend. We'd be there.
The architect and the archaeologist have been doing work there, and they both concur that it's again, this is another one where the Upper Nicky's, Lower Nicky question. The building's a lot newer than I guess we originally thought, according to the physical evidence. 1790s, 1800s, what they're saying, is when that original house was built. So does that change your perception of the house? I mean, we always kind of were under the impression it was a later house, 1730s, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. It was beautiful inside. Of course, then I didn't care about age of things. I can place everything. You know, where the fireplace was, and there was a door, and the bedrooms were upstairs. And a big dining room with a well, it was a big, what do I want to call it? Not a bathroom, just a fancy thing with lights, and it was beautiful. And the kitchen was nice. I don't remember that side building that's attached.
The west side.
But it must have been there then.
I guess
Yeah.
our records say 1920s it was put on.
Yeah, because I was there in 48, 49. But I just can't place it. And then off the kitchen was a door that we went upstairs, and they had 2 rooms just with a couple of beds, and some nights we'd stay up there. Oh, we just had a good time.
Thank you for joining us today with our time with our town historian Joan Szablewski. Watch for future editions of Glenville History, where we'll
Good.
talk more about our town's history, including our school districts and some other interesting facts about the town of Glenville. Thank you for joining us.